Hello, Home Slizzles is here with Home Slice Adulting, coming to you with, for the first time in over a year, my driving home series. So for those of you who are unfamiliar, back in the day when I would actually physically go into work prior to COVID, I had a series that I would do on Fridays. Because on Fridays, there's no better feeling than getting off of work on a Friday, knowing you ain't got to go back the next day. So I would just come here to talk about what I was going through during the week, or things that I saw in, social media, or just how I was feeling that day. So I used to do that, and to a certain extent it was fairly regular. But once I had to start working and going to school from home, that regularity just went completely out of the window. So what I have been doing since then is really not much to keep up on my YouTube channel. So now that I am officially done and graduated with my master's in business administration, I don't have too much of an excuse for why my YouTube channel doesn't get regular videos. I am still planning a wedding, so until the wedding happens in a few weeks now, I still do have an excuse. But my YouTube channel has always been on the back burner to my career and to my educational efforts, and now to my wedding. So we'll see. Now that many of those things are over with, we'll see how YouTube fits into my new life. But anyways, y'all, it's Friday, and this weekend is actually going to be full of work. I work at a school, and students are about to come back in a little bit. And so as a person who works in the main office of the school that I work at, I am ridiculously busy for a number of reasons. And so I think today's topic will be just me talking through my thoughts of being overwhelmed. So I have been feeling extremely overwhelmed over the past couple of weeks for a number of reasons. So with COVID and everything going on with COVID, I would say over the past 15 months or so, I have been in a state of transition in virtually all the areas of my life. And what I mean by that is I don't feel settled in parts of my life because there are so many different chapters of my life that have been opening and closing over the past 15 months. And it's can we rest on a page? And the answer is no, because this other chapter of your life is going to be opening, and then this other chapter is going to be closing at the same time. And you're just going to have to figure out how to manage the closing of one chapter with the opening of another, with a chapter that has stayed open for a long time. I hope I'm making sense. But anyways, so what's been going on is that around 15 months ago, my fiance and I were really knee deep in the search for a house. So I've put up a few videos about us purchasing our house and a handful of home improvement projects that we have been doing around the house, right? So those home improvement projects, are even though I haven't been posting them, are still happening. And some of them are so drastic that we have to bring in contractors. There was a contractor at the house yesterday. So there's an ongoing chapter of home ownership, right? That chapter opened about 14 or 15 months ago for us, and that has been a real journey for us. It is our first time owning a home. Our home was built in the very late 50s and was remodeled when we purchased it. But contractors have a reputation of being shady for a reason. So there are things that have come up in the house, not very many, I'll admit to that. There are things that have come up in the house that are costly, that are annoying, that have just annoyed me beyond belief. So for me, that piece is not just annoying because it prevents you from enjoying your home the way that you're supposed to enjoy your home, but also the fact that it costs so much money to repair those things. That's a journey in itself. And so, of course, it has you asking those questions like, was it the right time to buy the house? Did we buy the right house? So that's one chapter that is ongoing, right? You know, because as you own a house and as seasons change, you know, it has just been like a few weeks ago, just made a full year that we have been actually moved into the house. So as seasons change and the rainy season starts and the rainy season goes away, you begin to see, okay, this is something that I hadn't noticed about the house. The temperature up in here. I didn't know that the house didn't have air conditioning, and I should have known, but I was under the impression that it did. And so we just have a furnace. So it's like when you grow up in the South, all houses have air conditioning or you die, basically. So because we live in the Pacific Northwest, air conditioning does not come standard on most homes. So that's something that we've been dealing with now that, again, we've been there a full year and through all 4 seasons. So that is an interesting chapter. And while it is like a badge of honor, and I take seriously that ownership is one of the keys to building wealth and is very important, especially for people of color, and in my instance, Black people, for us to, you know, be homeowners and have those types of things to pass on to our children. It is a big headache. So that's an ongoing chapter. Another chapter was my final year of my 3-year evening MBA program. I was getting my master's of business administration for the past 3 years with some, you know, summer breaks between each year. I was not taking classes over the summer. Screw that. But anyways, I finally graduated just a few months ago, and that last year was an interesting chapter because that entire year was remote. So I had to go to school from home for the last 4 quarters, which was about 15 months. And that had its ups and downs. It's a little harder to be engaged when you're not learning in person. So that's one thing. But, you know, I think we all made the best of the situation. It was important for us to be safe. And I still learned a lot and got a lot out of it, right? So, you know, it was very, I was very fortunate to not have to commute, because the town that we moved to when we bought our new house is very far. And when I say far, I just mean like a super long commute, because traffic is terrible is what I mean. But as far as distance goes, it's much further away than we had lived previously. And so if I would have had to commute to actually physically go into school, I might have quit school. So, you know, something about being in traffic to start and end your day, just like, it pisses you off, okay? Just FYI if you didn't know. But, so that was good, but there were other pieces of it that were like, okay, they're not giving me a discount on this tuition. Is the quality of my education going to be the same if I were to come in person? And, you know, at the end of the day, everybody is just trying to make it work, whether you are an individual, a family, or a corporation, right? Like, we're all just trying to make it work. We're all pushing through this time, and as much as we want it to be over, COVID is not over. So I understand. But anyways, there was some anxiety with me finishing that program, right? Like, being able to finish the program. And then the big part of that transitional chapter, which is why this chapter is actually still kind of open for me, is even though I have finished school, the new question is, what's next, right? So I decided to stay at my current job until I got married. So my last day at my current job will be in about 5 weeks. And I have not started my job search yet. And even though I know what kind of fields I want to go into and my resume is actually ready, I am so overwhelmed in the moment that my job search being another thing on my plate is just kind of scary. Like, because right now I'm hardly balancing the other things that are going on, the other transitions, the other chapters in my life. And it's like, okay, adding a job search chapter is going to make things even more difficult. And so I have some anxiety and some pressure around that as well. An additional chapter that's remaining from school is that I'm working with one of my professors on like a side project that really takes a chunk of time. And I am very interested in the subject matter of this work, and I'm very interested in what this type of research means, but I'm also interested in enjoying some free time. So, I made a commitment and I'm going to follow through with that commitment, but it is a residual leftover from my chapter in school. And again, hence why I cannot close this particular chapter in my life just yet. So the issue with, finishing school and figuring out what's next career-wise and starting up a job search and this additional side project, that has been my school chapter for the past 15 months, right? So, let me see. Another chapter. My fiance and I are about to get married. So we have another life chapter. And part of the reason why this chapter has been, I don't want to say difficult. It's not necessarily difficult, but it has presented a challenge to me, and I think to both of us, is that because we're taking such a major step in our relationship, I think we both have made a commitment, but I think the desire probably came from me for us to dive deep into our relationship and make sure that we knew what we were getting into, right? So, we officially found a venue, for our wedding, and officially started wedding planning at the end of last year. So since December of last year, we have been like full on wedding planning mode. And that wedding planning stuff was happening at the same time that I was finishing up my MBA. So there was those two chapters being open at the same time, right? And then once I was done with school, I spent a month and a half basically of kind of like trying to round off most of the other things. And this, because our wedding is technically a destination wedding, we had to make plans to actually travel to where our wedding is going to be to do the things that you can only really do in person, right? So there's that. So that happened. But back to what I was talking about earlier about our desire to make sure that we know what we're getting ourselves into. We also, at the beginning of this year, started doing some couples counseling with a religious leader that, I grew up with. And so that has challenged our relationship in a way that I don't know if we were expecting it, but we should have. And that inspired us to take a deeper look at our relationship and talk about the things that we hadn't talked about or that we hadn't thought about in a long time. And so as we're about to open the chapter into marriage, and closing the chapter on engagement, I think that we are realizing that we still want to be married, of course, and we're planning on getting married, but that there are things that we need to get better at, things that we need to make a commitment about. And so that has been a challenging area for us. And when I So I know it doesn't make sense, but like if there are moments where I just have so much stuff to do that I'll just sit down and watch TV and not get anything accomplished because I want to escape from this feeling of feeling like I have too many things to do. And instead of doing those things and crossing those things off my list, I just procrastinate and then make those things that I had to do even more urgent because I wasted a day or whatever. So I have to fight against that feeling. So yeah, so things are crazy. They're also exacerbated by the fact that a new chapter for my workplace is opening up a new school year. And again, because I work in the main office, that means that my life has gotten a little bit more hectic. And now that I'm about to leave this job, I also have the pleasure of adding to this chapter, training my replacement and training the replacement for a position that I used to have at my job. So those two complicating factors make it difficult. So yeah, so my hope is I purposely like put off any types of gatherings or meetings or any type of fun stuff for this weekend to like really put my head down and try to get myself ahead of the curve so that I don't have this overwhelmed feeling anymore. So my hope is to get some of that done, to fight my urge to procrastinate, and instead reward myself for a job well done once I actually get some stuff done. So y'all say a prayer for me that I make this the most productive weekend ever, and that I can, come out from feeling this weight of having too many things to do and not enough time. So if anybody else is experiencing this and has some tips or whatever, like, let me know. Okay, so I think when I get home I'm gonna write down the stuff I want to do in my planner, and we'll see how far I get this weekend. So thank y'all for listening. This has been quite a long